YouTube. I think it's over for Caspa. Unfortunately, I think this is going to maybe a tenth of a penny. I think that's my best estimate because we just can't ever break out of the yellow line, this downward line here. So I think probably we'll go to like a tenth of a penny, probably way down here, right? And after that, probably the network will become unsecure and the whole thing's gonna fail. So what I'm gonna do for you guys is I've left my wallet in the description, and you can just send me your Caspa, and if you just make a memo and to me in the comments and just say this is my PayPal or my Venmo or my Zelle, I'll do my best to give you a penny on your for each of your Caspa. So I'm doing you a huge favor because your Caspa is asymptotically trending to zero. So now's a great time to just give like honestly, like you're giving me my Caspa, but not really. Like you're selling it to me at a really good price, okay? Because it's not even worth the time to risk keeping this on the market anymore. You see how quickly it just capitulates, right? But no, in all seriousness, fam, like what an amazing opportunity to buy. To like this guy saying right here, back the truck up. Don't get faked out. This is this kind of stuff happens around this time of year. We're late cycle and we got pumps around the corner. But none of this is what I want to talk about this video. What I want to do this video is lay down some insane alpha, in my opinion. This is all my opinion and none of it's financial advice, that I've never seen the Caspa community talk about. I love Bitcoin. I was a Bitcoin maxi in 2022 and in 2023. I was a big Bitcoin maxi, and I did see that Bitcoin would likely be one of the best holds this cycle because we're under QT and everything here sucks. Everything here is all trying to solve problems that don't actually matter in the world. And Bitcoin is sitting up here as digital capital. Right. And it's actually solving real world problems, and it's actually a hedge against debasement. And that's where crypto is trending, is solving real world problems, right? But I want to talk about why I think Kaspa will surpass Bitcoin in market cap. And that is an absolutely ridiculous thing to say about any cryptocurrency. People have been saying that shit since 2016, 2017, since I've been here, okay? And I've been involved in cryptocurrency pretty intimately. In 2023, before I knew about Caspa, and in 2022, before I knew about Caspa, I never thought anything even had a chance of, I was just like, Bitcoin's number one. It'll be number one forever. It's going up forever. And it still very well could. But I just want to present to the Caspa community and any interested Bitcoin maxis my take on why I think it is obvious, actually. It's not obvious, but it's significantly more so the highest likelihood outcome, in my opinion, that Caspa becomes the number one cryptocurrency by market cap. And it's nuanced how that happens. And it's not against Bitcoin. It's not because I want Bitcoin to fail necessarily. It's just what I see happening. I see Bitcoin as just a casualty on the way to the mountain of crypto, the mountain use case, which is peer-to-peer cash, trustless system, right? This is actually like the pinnacle. And Bitcoin's already tapped out of that, and nothing else has been able to compete on a level that is actually adopted on a global scale like I think Caspa could be. So I want to take you guys on a journey. Hopefully it's a quick journey. I really want this video to be shorter than my last ones, okay? So I might just summarize some parts of it to get it over with fast, because my last video had bad retention rate. So I want to get you from over here, this guy who got hit in the head with a sledgehammer, and this guy who thinks he knows everything about crypto, but he could mint you an NFT on 5 different proof-of-stake blockchains, but ultimately he hasn't studied the nuances between Caspa and Bitcoin, and why Caspa actually has a serious dog in this fight, and why I think Layer 1 still haven't listed, because they're busy getting as much freaking Caspa as they freaking possibly can at these prices while they can actually still manipulate it. So to understand why I think Caspa is going to pass Bitcoin, we have to look at some charts that, the YouTube algorithm isn't going to recommend you when it shows you a video of someone just saying, buy 0.001 Bitcoin and you're going to be rich. It's going up forever. Is it going up forever? Well, I think yes. In a vacuum it is. But in the presence of a superior monetary technology, it might not. So this is Bitcoin's problem, right? Is Bitcoin Genesis. Okay, January 2nd, 2009. That's useless. I just wanted to flex on you. And probably half of you know that already. I'm sorry. When Bitcoin was created, you had 21 million Bitcoin in what's called Coinbase rewards, and these are issued every time a miner mines a block. You get two things in a block when you mine a block as a Bitcoin miner. You get your set Coinbase reward issuance, which is dependent on your epoch. For instance, if you're in the first epoch, you get 50. Second, you get 25. Third, you get 12.5. These are called halvings. The other thing that you get is the summation of all the fees paid by each individual transactor in that block. So if there were, 100,000 transactions in a block, or whoa, that's way too many. Okay, let's say there's like 1,000 transactions. Is that too many? How many is in a block of Bitcoin? I actually don't even know. Let's say there's like 100 per block. I could look it up, but I don't care. There's 100 per block, and each person pays like a Bitcoin. You get 100 Bitcoins when you mine that block. All right, and that's the fees. But that's like, that number was way too high and very unrealistic. So don't expect that to actually be the case here. But eventually, over time, because we have these halvings, and Bitcoin is disinflationary but still inflationary, eventually there will be no more Bitcoin left to mine, right? And that's that 2140 year that you hear so much, like, oh, we don't have to worry about this, like our great grandchildren will worry about this. Well, okay, boomer. Oh, way to do that again, you know what I mean? Yeah, we can take on debt and deficits. It's okay. It's an investment for the future. We're going to be able to pay it back in the future. Sorry, side tangent. But it's really a problem before then. And then so here's your here's the daily issuance and fees. So this is like the amount of fees that everyone using the network decides to pay the miners per day, because this is the amount of like traffic that was on the network, and this is the the fees they paid. So the lifeblood of Bitcoin essentially is how much Bitcoin do the miners get per day, and how is the predictability of that? How is that? They have to keep the lights on. They have to pay the electricity bills. So since this is trending to zero, eventually, and I did the math on this earlier. I think it was approximately the year 2061. I won't put you through the calculator again, because I was just sitting here before trying to record a video before I screwed it all up. And I was dividing by 2 a million times and counting. Okay, I won't put you through that, but it was approximately the year 2061 where the issuance rate of Bitcoin through Coinbase rewards daily drops below 1 Bitcoin. Okay. So this isn't a 2140 problem. Like, get this out of your head. You're dropping below a Bitcoin. Okay. I think by 2061, today you're at 400. This is a big freaking deal. This is like, you might see this in your lifetime. Like, I would address this right now. This ain't something you can push off. So you're below 1, right? And today, you can see that the fees on Bitcoin have died. Okay. So the fees today, guys, it's like terrible. This is the Bitcoin is digital gold narrative. This is the Bitcoin is digital capital. This is the debasement hedge. Never sell your Bitcoin. This is everyone in the black market took Bitcoin off anything you can pay with. This is nobody's paying for anything with Bitcoin. You buy Bitcoin one time, you put it away, and you never sell it, right? That's what this is right here. And back here was the discovery of Bitcoin by the world, basically. This is when the world discovered Bitcoin, December of 2017. I mean, Google Trends just tells you this. Okay, and I don't think it's ever going to surpass that, because we all know Bitcoin now, and anyone that knows Bitcoin by word of mouth can just go out and like just learn from a friend or learn from an algorithm. You don't have to search Bitcoin anymore like you did back here. Okay, you don't have to just search that word. Even I was searching just Bitcoin. Okay. like everyone was, like not everyone, you know, if you were over here, but if you were new this cycle, which most people were, statistically speaking, and will probably forever be, yeah, you were just searching Bitcoin. So this is the only time in history, like besides just getting in Bitcoin to hope it goes higher, like here and here and here and here a little bit, you don't actually pay no one, there's no demand, right, to outbid other people on the Bitcoin blockchain. And a lot of that's because it's so expensive and slow. Nobody wants to use it. And I'm going to show that in a second. But yeah, nobody really wants to use Bitcoin as a peer-to-peer currency. It's not like Bitcoin. If you read the white paper, you know, just look at the top paragraph there. It says peer-to-peer cash system. It doesn't say digital gold. You know what I mean? This is what the society has boxed it into because it sucks at transacting. So the world decided it sucks at transacting, right? And this is what happens when everyone agrees to that. We see our block rewards, or I'm sorry, our transaction fees go to crap. So you're looking at like 10, 5, 2, like this is launch of ETFs, and I think there's some ordinal stuff going on here, but normal activity on the Bitcoin blockchain does not promote significant predictability in terms of high rewards in Bitcoin. So you go to 3 Bitcoin per day that the entire network has to live off, 5 Bitcoin per day from 400, even let's just say 4 Bitcoin per day, right? And here now you get 400. That's a 100x diminish, or I'm sorry, that's a 100x less secure network than it is today. And it's also very unpredictable because, you know, some days you're doubling, some days you're halving the amount of Bitcoin these miners would get. Today, that never happens. Look how stable these rewards are relative to these rewards. You know, some days they're 3, some days they're 6, sometimes they're 8. So this is going to be a huge deal. There's already articles published on this. There's already channels that have talked about this. I know people in the Caspa community have talked about this. So this is going to be a problem for Bitcoin, and it is going to be a problem sooner than we think, but you know, it's still a ways out in the future. It's not like, you know, you can buy Bitcoin today and I bet you're going to make, you know, a good amount of money still before you ever have to worry about these issues. So let's talk about the potential solutions for this, which I think will have to be implemented, because the problem is, and I'll link this video in the description, it's not necessarily that you're holding up the Bitcoin network with like 100x less money relative to the value of the network, okay? But it's more so that when you do that, you force maybe tens or you force multiple tens of percentages of Bitcoin miners that were profitable to become unprofitable, and then this could sway the incentives of miners because miners are greedy. They want to do what's in their best interest. And unlike what Saylor says, you will have you won't have enough, in my opinion, free electricity in the world to just be able to just maintain the network, or even says negative electricity. Like you need a healthy security budget, and your security budget is drying up. It's going to zero. And this is terrible because you're going to have way more potential hash rate in the world that becomes unprofitable. It has potential to become malicious. Okay, so for every like percent less of miners that are profitable over time relative to what was profitable, you have 1% chance higher of attack, in a sense. I mean, it's not necessarily 1-to-1, but it's like eventually in the future you will have greater than 50% of the potential mineable hash rate become available, freed up through unprofitability to potentially attack the network. Like if the network gets ultra valuable and you have cheap, high amount of hash rate that exists in the world, it becomes easier to attack the network. All right, okay. I'm beating a dead horse. So this is a serious problem. People have already been talking about it. What are the proposed solutions? One of them I didn't even include because it's trash, and that is 0. Okay, I listed these in order of least likely to work to most likely to work, in my opinion. This is all my opinion. And I think the least likely to work is going from proof of work to proof of stake. So instead of a known issuance and an unknown security model, which is Bitcoin's current proposition, you go to a unknown issuance but known security model, which is Ethereum's, which is how Ethereum currently issues and regulates security on its blockchain. So, or on its blockchain through proof of stake. So, is Bitcoin going to go proof of stake? What do you guys think? Put your votes in the comments. Why would you not just buy Ethereum if you're going to make Bitcoin go proof of stake? It would destroy everything, okay? And it would also be a gigantic upgrade. It would destroy everything. You're never going to see that, even though I always see that whenever I Google this shit. So, number one, that was number 0, right? Number 1 is charity. So, when was anything, what is valuable in this world that solely subsides off of charity alone? Nothing, right? You're not going to be able to gather enough charity to reliably secure what we're hoping to be, right? If you're a Bitcoin maxi, the most valuable monetary network in the entire world. Okay, Bitcoin network taxed by government. So what do I mean by this? Well, so you live in the United States. The United States ends up having a ton of Bitcoin. They say, once the security starts failing, inevitably, they'll say, hey, nobody wants to voluntarily send Bitcoin on the network to secure it. We need to tax the citizens of this nation to pay for miners to increase hash rate, because and if we don't, China's going to attack. Well, I think this is unlikely because the citizens can relocate, right, if the tax is absorbent. I don't think it will be. I think it would be moderate. But no one would want to vote on this. It would have to be forced on the people by lawmakers, which could happen. Like, I could see this one happening. This is the first realistic option on this list. But I also don't see it being reliable long term. It increases, or it invites humans into the security model, which suck. Like, this is probably just gonna screw up. You know what I mean? It's not like permanent throughout time. It would be a temporary fix. The only things that would be permanent throughout time to secure the Bitcoin network are changes to how the network works itself. So that brings me to option 3 and 4. So 3, I think, remember, this is from least likely to most likely. So next is inflation through tail emissions. So every time you mine a block forever, there's a small amount of Bitcoin that gets created. That's what this means. So essentially, for every year you hold Bitcoin, you're being taxed through inflation to get more miners to keep mining forever. Now, this would be a very small amount. Even just getting, like 10 Bitcoin a day would be huge. So a year, that would be 3,650 Bitcoin. That's really not that much in the grand scheme of things. Like, think about 21 million relative to that. Like, what is your stock to flow there? It's probably, 1,000 years to 10,000 years. It's a lot, right? So it's really not that bad. But what makes me think this won't happen right now is the 21 million hard cap narrative is so ingrained in our society, and those that buy Bitcoin, like, they are not going to go with this. Like, this would be something that's used in the future, which brings me to option 4. Forced transaction fees higher. So Saylor seems to think that there's going to magically be this gigantic block space demand, and we're just going to see permanent 2017 level bidding on the Bitcoin network in the future for some reason. Maybe Lightning takes off. Lightning's been around since 2019, and I don't see no one's using Lightning really. I mean, people are using Lightning, right? You got the people of El Salvador kind of using it. I've seen people in Africa using it. But Lightning is so bad, and ultimately it's just a stepping stone away from the traditional banking system when you get down to it. Like, the poors use a database that's corruptible, and the rich get to transact on the base layer, and we basically end up paying a tax for them to be able to transact on the base layer. Anyways, I don't think what I'm trying to say here is I don't think there will ever be demand, like routine, regular demand for Bitcoin block space to naturally make the transaction fees higher. And that's what I was getting into earlier by showing you this chart and explaining why, it's sucking right now. So we'll have to force it higher. So what we do is instead of getting 2 Bitcoin a day, we 10x it. So every person that transacts on the network, oh, it costs $1 in USD. Well, now it costs $10. Oh, it costs $10. Now it costs $100. It costs $100. Now it costs $1,000. You just keep ramping that up artificially through code and make people pay more to send their Bitcoin. I see this as the best option because you're just artificially, instead of, naturally, increasing transaction fees, you're artificially doing it. And then you do this to the point where you can't go any higher and people start using it less, meaning you're now getting less fees because people want to transact less because it's more expensive. And then you do a mixture between this and inflation, like in the year 2090 or whatever, when people have moved on and it's a Bitcoin economy, a Bitcoin globe, and everyone just is using Bitcoin all the time, and they're like, this is just something necessary for society. Like it introduces like a 0.001% yearly inflation rate. You know what I mean? So what's the big deal? So the point here is that for every year Bitcoin exists, because it's failed as a peer-to-peer currency and there's no natural demand for block space, and I don't ever expect there to be, because I think we already have enough history. Remember, everyone discovered Bitcoin here. A bunch of people started buying Bitcoin here, but ultimately everyone on the planet almost knows about Bitcoin. You're not early to Bitcoin, okay? Everyone in the first world knows about Bitcoin. Even third worlds, they know about Bitcoin. And look what's happened to the block demand. It's cratered. The more people learn about Bitcoin, the less they want to use Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Every year Bitcoin exists, it's getting less secure. We're going to have to implement something on the network that will essentially be a tax. It's either a tax for holding it, or it's a tax at, point of sale. It's one of these two fees. You're getting taxed, right? So it's going to get more expensive and it's going to get more inefficient to use Bitcoin. Now, I just told you all this and ranted for like 10 minutes on this to tell you this is not important. It does not matter. It does not matter if Bitcoin lives in a vacuum and it's all by itself. Who cares? You know what I mean? Gold has a 2 point something inflation rate. Like there is no security problem. You know what I mean? Like you can introduce tail emissions. It's still better than gold. You can introduce higher transaction fees. It's still better than gold. If we can just make this network work, it's still better than gold. You know what I mean? Like it's still an improvement. So in a vacuum, and I think this is where Bitcoin maxis come from, there's no problems here because you have to understand, you have to get in the mind of Bitcoin maxi. It's perfect, right? It's it has immaculate conception. It's gonna keep sustaining itself. It's number one. It's the king. It's always been the king, and that's what you have to realize. But you know what? Bitcoin doesn't exist in a vacuum. And in 2022 and in 2023, when I was super bullish on Bitcoin and when I was becoming a pretty hardcore Bitcoin maxi, I realized that Bitcoin did exist in a vacuum. I said there's nothing that can compete with this. There's nothing that has as high of a chance as being a predictable, secure, scarce digital asset network as Bitcoin does long term until Caspa. Because Kaspa has the same, it has the same principles as Bitcoin. Why is Bitcoin valuable? Because it's digital capital, right? Well, Kaspa can also become digital capital. Why? Because it's decentralized globally and it has the same security as Bitcoin. It also has a scarce supply, has a hard cap, and the same problems that I just went over with Bitcoin exist for Kaspa. They're the exact same. Kaspa right now it exists on Coinbase rewards, right? And those Coinbase rewards are going to zero, and they're going to zero much faster than Bitcoin's. So Bitcoin's end in like 2140. You know, Kaspa's end in, what's this? I have the emissions chart here. Let me refresh this. Kaspa's end in the 15th year chromatic phase. We're now getting, so today in year 4, right? We're at the end of year 4 right now. We're getting like 21 million Kaspa. Or I'm sorry, yeah, or sorry, no, not even close. We're getting 81 million Kaspa per month. You know, and by the 15th year, so in 11 years, we'll be getting 37,000 Kaspa. So think about the magnitudes different that is. That means like probably by like the 20th year, the 25th year, you're getting nothing at this point. You're getting fractions. You're getting like 10 Kaspa. You're getting fractions of Kaspa. You're getting Sompies. You know what I mean? So this thing is falling off fast. We don't have till 2040. We have till, or 2140. We have until like 2035. Okay, to start replacing these transaction fees. But this is why I think that Caspa will replace transaction fees. So, I'm sorry, why it has a much higher probability to do so. So as we can see, like a network like than Bitcoin. Okay, so a network like Bitcoin, it's slow. Nobody wants to use it. The more people discover it, the less people want to use it, right? So Ethereum also super slow, also super clunky. Much less slow, especially since proof of stake, but still slow nonetheless. So you can see back here in 2021, 2022, Ethereum was all the rage. Like, you know, Ethereum was skyrocketing. We went from $100 at the lows, $90 at the lows, to like $4,800 at the top. You know, Ethereum did over 50x last cycle approximately. Everyone loved Ethereum. Things are getting built on Ethereum. You know, we had Shiba Inu pop off, you know, NFTs all over the place, but it was always trying to beat Ethereum. And all these fast networks came around, and they were Solana and Tron from 2017, and Solana from, I think, from 2020 or the very beginning of 2021. BNB was popping off, and they introduced smart contracts. So what we see back here is Ethereum, the green, was hugely dominating network fees, meaning transactions. You know, how many people are buying Ethereum to then buy meme coins, buy stable coins, buy whatever usable coin on the network. And then you fast forward to today, and you see Ethereum is falling off. It's losing to Tron. It's losing to Solana. It's losing to BNB. It is below Tron, Solana, and BNB. Look at what they did to my boy. Look at this. Ethereum, 3.5 million. Tron, 64 million. Solana, 8 million. BNB, 6 million. All these other chains have gone significantly higher in terms of daily revenue. Why? Speed. It's just speed. Nobody wants to use Ethereum. Ethereum's like, I think 12 seconds to transact on it. I just Googled this stuff, and I'm probably going to get the numbers wrong. Tron is like a second, like 2 seconds, maybe sub-second. I can't remember. BNB is like sub-second. I think Solana is sub-second, like 400 milliseconds. If you can send a stable coin, why do you don't care if it doesn't have to be the most decentralized network in the world to just send a stable coin. You know what I mean? Like, retail investors like don't care about that, right? They don't care about decentralization. They don't care if Ethereum's the number one. They just want something quick. They want it now. They're sending their stables, they're sending their memes, they want it now. To give you another example of this too, like Cardano was supposed to be like the ETH killer, right? Well, guess what? Cardano's like trash, right? We have nothing going on Cardano. No one really is using this relative to the other networks. Do you know why? In my opinion, it's because it takes 20 seconds to send your Cardano. It might be way more decentralized than Tron and obviously BNB and Solana, and it has no downtime. But it's slow, man. Nobody cares because it's slow. If we can implement something to allow for, we already have meme coins. We have KRC20 coins. We already have meme coins. Meme coin demand is going to go way up, right? Okay, and this is like really shallow, like just early phase stuff, right? We just want to see the transaction fees growing on the network, and they have been growing. And I think the meme coins will continue to grow. I think we will get stable coins, potentially with ZK rollups or with VProgs. I think the devs are incentivized to develop solutions to allow for more alternative uses, like Jonathan has recently talked about in a podcast on the Caspa network. Like they're incentivized to develop more uses, right? Because we have to see this go up in the next 10 years. Unlike Bitcoin, like we need the Caspa transaction fees denominated in CAS to continue to keep going up and up and up. And I'm saying because I think the network is significantly faster than Bitcoin. It's faster than Solana, and with Dagnite next year, it's going to be the fastest network, the fastest cryptocurrency network to ever exist. But like Solana, despite what it does in price here, it's basically amassed such a user base and such utility that there's just constant demand for the Sol token. It never, it's not like perfect, but like look at this constant elevated demand versus this back here. I mean, have you ever seen this in all of Bitcoin's history? It's because Bitcoin is just a speculation. We speculate, we stop. We speculate, we stop. That's why you engage with a network, is to speculate. You engage with Solana to buy meme coins, to engage in gambling, basically. It's basically a gambling chain, and to send stable coins and some other things as well, of course. But yeah, guys, so I think I think through I'm really hopeful about real world adoption. I've made some bold claims, like in my first video, about how I think that in 10, maybe 15 years, we will get a nation state adopting Kaspa once we get appreciating. Once we get a better price action and greater stability in the price, we will get nation states looking at it. It makes sense. It makes a lot more sense than Bitcoin, than using Lightning on Bitcoin. And it's cheaper, and I think the world will realize that. So why does any of this matter here? Bitcoin gets weaker over time. Nobody wants to use the network. It's not used for what it was designed for. This means the common word I used earlier was tax, tax, tax. The future of the Bitcoin network involves a tax. You'll be paying an inflation tax. You'll be paying a point of sale tax. You'll be paying a tax to engage with the network. This makes the network weaker. Saylor has admitted to this already on an interview, and I'm not saying, I don't care what Saylor thinks. I'm just saying Saylor literally already thinks this to any Bitcoin maxi out there, because I know Saylor is like the god, basically. So on a podcast with Graham Stephan, he's already admitted to. They asked him what is Bitcoin's greatest weakness. He said, well, a stronger network. If Bitcoin has to tax, to maintain security, and if Kaspa does not have to tax to maintain security, meaning that Kaspa becomes the first cryptocurrency ever to both have to have both a predictable security budget and issuance. Basically, no other cryptocurrency has done that. It by the will of the people and not by forced transaction fees. It will become the highest incented network due to cost reduction of any blockchain / block DAG to ever exist. It will have done something that no blockchain or block DAG or cryptocurrency has ever done. Okay, what I just said, nothing's done that, right? There is no currency here that's done what I'm saying. And if Kaspa does do that, which I think the incentives with macroeconomics, with micro use cases within crypto, and then macroeconomics, and then merchant adoption, nation state adoption, company adoption, Kaspa has the highest chance of doing this. It is decentralized. It is a fair playground for everybody to go and make their claim and make their stake. There's never been anything like it. Like, it's cliche and it's what everyone says, but it's just the truth. And if Kaspa can do that, then it will pass Bitcoin. It absolutely will pass Bitcoin. It's the superior monetary network, in the same way that Bitcoin is the superior monetary network of today. if Kaspa can beat Bitcoin to becoming the first ever cryptocurrency that does not have to scale its issuance or tax its users by willing participants wanting to pay those transaction fees, it is the superior network, and it will win in the end. It's literally over at that point, and it will destroy the Bitcoin network. Probably slowly at first, and then quickly. So yeah, it's just a matter of time under those circumstances. So yes, it is a case statement, and it is contingent on the future. But I think by the mid 2030s, like I showed you the emission rate of Caspa, I think we'll have our answer. It'll be there, right? But it's still a matter of time either way. And if you think Bitcoin got a lot of shit coming up, you got no idea what's coming for Caspa, like in the next 10 years. Like now the world didn't even, like, imagine the world was shitting on Bitcoin through the 2010s, right? 2020s is kind of like no man's land. 2030s, the world will be shitting on Caspa because these people just got into Bitcoin. You know what I mean? Like Saylor just said at like the BTC at DC conference, like Bitcoin's had like 1 year of global recognition of, you know, what it is, or not global, but like, but U.S. national, at least, like from a, you know, from the executive branch point of view. So yeah, they're just adopting Bitcoin. They're going to be hating on Caspa, especially because Bitcoin, if you think about it, like enables basically just banking again. It's just, we're just reinventing the banking system, making it better, right? We are making it better, more optimized, more provable on the blockchain. It is better, but Caspa will completely destroy any power any government has over its citizens' currency. It will actually give basically the globe, after the implementation of Dagnite, hopefully, fair participation in a network of universal scarcity and permissionless digital energy. You know, I'm very optimistic. We're going to see how the rest of the 2020s go. We're going to see how it goes into the mid 2030s, and we will have our answer. And if I'm going to leave this subject right now with an analogy, I did some thinking about it. You know, Bitcoin is kind of like, I'm gonna throw back to RuneScape. You know, Bitcoin is kind of like the first player on the RuneScape server, like ever, like the first one to join. And Bitcoin like flew through everything and went to the wilderness at like max level, and now it's just like destroying every other player that comes in terms of like, what is your value proposition to this like game. It's like Bitcoin has the destroyer of monetary value, right? It's just like going out and just slashing everything. It's like, I have the best use case. And then you have Caspa, which is basically like, you know, I'm going to make the analogy to 10 plus years of dedicated research and development from some of the smartest minds in crypto to a selected Asian kid from China who has been like brought up from birth to beat Bitcoin at this game. Basically, it was like a huge selection process, like select all these people, you know, and Caspa was like the last dude standing, and it's like, okay, you have all the skills, you're our best player, like go beat Bitcoin. And Caspa goes in like ultra fast, like in superior technology, superior potential decentralization, superior potential max use cases, but it's on a quest to complete the one quest that Bitcoin never could. And if it completes that quest, it basically gets like an insta-kill sword. And that quest is, you know, securing the network on transaction fees alone. Can you secure the network on transaction fees alone? If you do, Caspa will leave, and it doesn't matter any of the upgrades it gets, you know, it will leave that quest with the insta-kill sword. And when it goes to the wilderness, Bitcoin will fight, you know, Bitcoin will throw punches. But ultimately, Caspa just does one of these, and it all falls down. And to the maxis, like if you know, if everything's pie in the sky, if you think I'm crazy, like, you know, just do your own research and call me crazy in the comments. Like, honestly, I would appreciate it. I appreciate any feedback I get on this video, like more than you know. Like, I really want the community's feedback on this. But that's just how I see the situation. I think Caspa is just a bred killer of Bitcoin, and the beautiful thing is it's kind of doing it for the good of all of us, because a future of Bitcoin is a future of continued suppression, and the future of Caspa is maybe the greatest humanitarian technology of all time. Like, you know, it will, I think it just will propel the freedom of maybe billions of humans. Like, honestly, it sounds insane, but potentially, I mean, the potential for Caspa was crazy. And by targeting Satoshi's original dream of peer-to-peer cash, it will kill Bitcoin by getting the transaction fees settled. It will then, through getting the network secured on transaction fees, it will actually become a better digital gold than Bitcoin even is, because it won't have to forcibly tax its users. But guys, before I leave you here, I got a couple more points to make. Why are we buying Cas? Is it to get rich? The answer is yes. But it's also more reasons than that. It has to be more reasons than that. It is because I refuse to live my life based around a currency that is debased to benefit those with power that they should not have, in my opinion, right? We all get opinions. I don't think just because you own an asset means that you own my time. You know what I mean? I don't want to live in that world. And because of the existence of Caspa and Bitcoin, you don't have to live in that world. So that's why I'm choosing to denominate my life not in dollars, but in Caspa. While the rest of society thinks in dollars, I'm thinking in Caspa. It's about more than just getting rich. It's about the very principle of our corrupt monetary system. And it's about just living a good life. Because at the end of the day, like, you need money to live a good life for the most part. I mean, you can go out in the woods, but like, as soon as you get a toothache, like, shit sucks. You know what I mean? We live in a society with a lot of technology that we all want to take advantage of. And to use that technology, you need money. So how to get rich with Caspa? Number one, don't lose it. It doesn't matter if you have 1,000,000 bars of gold, in the bank or in the safe, and you lost the safe. Well, you can tell everybody, where the gold is, but unless you can bring that to the pawn shop or bring that to the, bullion establishment, then you're not going to be able to just get rich. You should not lose your Caspa. Again, this is ordered from most important to least important. All right. So you can't lose it. You lose it, you're done. You have to own enough of it. Okay. If you own one Caspa and it goes to $100, are you rich or are you poor? You're poor. If you own 100 Caspa and it goes to $100, are you rich or are you poor? Well, most likely, if you're watching this video, you're poor. If you own 10,000 Caspa and it goes to $100, are you rich or are you poor? I think you're probably, okay. It just depends on what your goal is. But if you want to get rich, whatever that means to you, you have to buy enough of it. So you can't stop stacking, right? The more you have, the more you'll get rich, right? I mean, how obvious is this right now? Repetitively bet on it. All right, I'm going to take another minute on this. I'm not going to go too much into this video, but what I think the appreciation of Caspa will look like, it's not going to just go up during all season, right? So if you're waiting for all season this whole time and you're betting on Caspa, you've already, if you were just in Bitcoin and you're waiting for all season to go buy your altcoins, you've already lost 34 times your Caspa denominated in your Bitcoin. You've lost out on 34 times from these 2022 lows. And before this, it was free, right? And now this is how every coin starts out. But what I think Caspa is going to force you to do, because I think Caspa is going to be a participant in alt season, because we have these all seasons around Bitcoin, Caspa will be a solid participant in those for at least the next 2 cycles, probably, maybe 3 cycles. it'll go up, right? But it'll also go up at different points in the cycle. It'll go up early when no one expects it, mid-cycle when no one expects it, and you'll have to bet on it, in my opinion, over and over and over again to gain your sats, right? Because why are we buying Kaspa? We're buying it to get rich, right? But like, why would you not just buy Bitcoin to get rich? Well, you're buying Caspa because you think it's going to go up on Bitcoin. And if I'm going to bet on anything else here, with the ironic exception of Dogecoin potentially, I actually think nothing else will regularly appreciate on sats over the years, over the decades. You want it to go up on your sats, right? And I think what Caspa is going to make you do is bet on it every single time. Yes, maybe you can do this thing where you buy Caspa, rotate it into Bitcoin, or the other way around, sorry. But, buy Bitcoin with your Caspa, like buy Caspa, buy Bitcoin, buy Caspa, buy Bitcoin, and maybe you can do something like that. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but I believe Caspa is doing this dance with its power law around Bitcoin's power law, which is like more stable right now, and Caspa's kind of doing this thing. And I think that's going to continue, and you have to get inside my head to visualize that. But I basically I think to see this 1000x gain in satoshis, right? Because right now it's over 1000x, it's almost a 2000x. I think you're gonna have to repetitively bet on Caspa every single time. So in this cycle, if we do a 9x on Bitcoin at the end of the cycle, if next cycle we do a 3.5x, right, on from top to top. So if Caspa goes from like 65 cents to $5.80, and Bitcoin goes from like 140K to like 320K or something. I'm just throwing out numbers that sound like this, that they could equal this. You get a number like this. The next cycle you get a number like this. So you're 2.8xing your satoshis. The next cycle you get a number like this. And then Caspa proves itself. This is all just hypothetical. Caspa proves itself that it can sustain itself on transaction fees alone. And then it gets a lot more attention, and then all of a sudden it's up like this, and then it's up like this, and then all of a sudden, before you know it, over this plus 4, 8, 12, 16, 20 years, you have filled that gap, right? So by 2045, you have almost caught up to Bitcoin. You're ranked number 2. Your market cap is right behind Bitcoin. You are the highest transaction. Most certainly, we're gaining transaction fees all the time. Nation states are using Caspa. Merchants all over the world are using Caspa. Companies are filling their balance sheets with Caspa. It makes a lot more sense to own Caspa than Bitcoin. Yada 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 yada, right? That's what I think is coming. But I think to not break anything, because Caspa is such an obvious bet, you have to bet on it over and over and over again. This isn't like a one cycle. Everyone thinks that this cycle, because Cardano was so great, it's just gonna meet Cardano in market cap. Like, no, it's not. It's not. Like, Caspa was so great. Why is it not just gonna beat Bitcoin in market cap this cycle? You know what I mean? Like, think about this, please. And then number 4, I'm getting tired. Value your life in it. So what I mean by this is, for instance, like Benjamin Cohen, he's stacked Bitcoin. He hasn't just bought Bitcoin in 2019 and just keeps holding it, right? He sells it every cycle and buys back in cheaper. Do that with your Caspa. You know what I mean? And before you buy anything in your life, but when you go out and look at other investments, when you see like some company doing well that you think is going to go up in value on Caspa, buy that, so you can buy more Caspa later. It's like, just think about your Caspa like your dollars, like gold, like Bitcoin. Like, you buy something else to buy more of it, right? You invest in something else because you think it's going to go up on Caspa. Or you sell your Caspa at the top and buy dollars or something because you think that dollars are going to go up relative to Caspa. In other words, meaning Caspa is going to go down relative to your dollar, and you're going to be able to buy more of it. So value your life in it. This is like an ultimate step to just keep stacking more efficiently, right? So I leave you on this note. Please, if you've watched the video, guys, please like, comment, subscribe. And sorry if I said anything wrong or pissed anyone off or got tired and dozed off in the middle of this. But yeah, I'd really appreciate the engagement on this video, honestly. And you can follow me on CoinMarketCap. I just shitpost on here all the time. I just say some dumb shit all the time. I will probably make an X handle at some point. And also, I do have, going back to this note here so I don't forget about it, don't lose it. I know every creator says this, but I did create I get $10. Use my link in the description, please, if you don't have a Tangem wallet already. I think they're pretty cool. I would just get the 3 set cards. They encrypt your private key off the internet on the card itself using your phone. It's very secure. Just don't lose the cards, and you're good. And your cards, not your keys, not your crypto, not your cards, not your crypto. With Tangem, keep your cards. Remember where your cards are. And ultimately, yeah, guys, like, thanks for watching.